Welcome to this week's Wiser about the technologies shaping tomorrow's world. Now, today I'm covering a range of news, but the big story for me was Meta's decision to release its AI model as open source. It's a bold move that shouldn't be underestimated. Now, just look at how the use of open source deepfake technology has gone astray, but I'm going to be covering that subject next week. Now, despite my best efforts to leave Twitter out of Wiser, I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm addicted to telling the Elon Musk story. I couldn't ignore Musk's delusion or decision to rebrand Twitter to X. Plus, in other news, the leading AI companies have signed up to a sort of play nicely deal with the US government. It's a token gesture, in my opinion, albeit well intended. And, speaking of AI, which of course is an everyday occurrence now, I've changed my point of view on Claude, which I'm now using more than ChatGPT. I do feel another book coming on, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And as an aside, a funny story, I found it funny anyway, Microsoft have added an AI-powered beauty filter using augmented reality from Maybelline to their Teams. Now, unfortunately, you cannot add a full head of hair to my bald head, but it was an interesting decision for me as to why Microsoft would want to add some kind of beauty filter to the professional environment of Teams. We'll look into that in a minute. But first up, I wanted to talk about this topic of AI safety and how Meta's open source approach to AI, in my view, threatens the future of trust in artificial intelligence. But first, let me set the sort of context. Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, revealed that Llama 2 would be open source, allowing anyone to access and utilize the technology for free. This move stands in contrast to what the other major players in the field are doing, such as OpenAI, Google, and Anthropic. They have all chosen to keep their AI systems closed and controlled. And you can have a discussion about sort of elite tech control versus, freedom and open and whatever. And it sounds kind of like, okay, maybe Zuckerberg's doing the right thing. Open sourcing Llama 2 could foster collaboration and accelerate innovation, as more people can contribute to and build upon the technology. Additionally, it allows organizations and individuals to use the AI capabilities within Llama 2 without any restrictions. They have free license to create exciting new applications and products using Llama 2, which they can't do with, say, ChatGPT. However, there are also potential risks associated with this open source approach. With open access to advanced AI technology, there's a chance that it will be used in the wrong hands and used for nefarious purposes. The lack of control and oversight could lead to all sorts of unintended consequences for society. And once that genie is out of the bottle, there's no putting it back. And we've seen that in deepfake, which is a subject I'm going to talk about more next week, because deepfake technology is open source. And now you have revenge porn, you have celebrity porn, you have all sorts of CSAM, unsavory material with children. And then you've got the massive issue of disinformation, where now you're going to get Trump and Putin and leaders, Macron, around the world being recorded through deepfake saying things they just haven't said. That's not to say there are not good sides with deepfake, but there's also the downside. And I think this is a warning for us with what Meta have done around Llama 2. And remember, we only just had 2 expert groups calling for a pause or a halt in AI development so that we could take stock of where AI is going. But unfortunately, the AI race for global domination is well underway. And with the Chinese not trusting the US and the US not trusting the Chinese, it's hard to see how anyone in the world is going to exercise any kind of like cautious approach, because no one's going to, hold up and delay what they're doing if the other side isn't going to do the same too. And that stalemate isn't ever going to happen. And when you compare and contrast what Meta's doing with all the other AI players, say take Anthropic, who have taken this different approach to AI safety, you can see the sort of stark difference and the potential for all sorts of downsides of the open source approach. Now, Anthropic have what's called this constitutional AI approach, which emphasizes transparency, accountability, and brings in ethical considerations into the artificial intelligence and machine learning process, so that when the AI makes the decisions it does, it's done in the context of a set of principles as opposed to a set of rules. The truth is, we're just going to have to wait and see. We just don't know which is the right place, and certainly Zuckerberg doesn't. So as we continue to sort of like navigate the complex landscape of AI development, it's really crucial that we remain vigilant and thoughtful in our approach. By considering the pros and cons of each method and staying committed to ethical principles, maybe we can work towards a future where AI enhances human life without compromising our values or safety. That sounds very idealistic. It was when I wrote it. I meant it when I wrote it. But as I read it back now, I'm thinking, I'm just not sure that's how the way the world works. Anyway, we're just going to have to wait and see, and have our fingers crossed as to whether, Zuckerberg knows what he's doing. Next up, and changing the pace, I want to talk about Sam Altman's WorldCoin and the latest buzz that this innovative cryptocurrency has created with its unique approach to identity authentication. Now, instead of relying on traditional passwords or two-factor authentication, WorldCoin uses biometric data, specifically iris scans. So people look into this orb, this like basketball-sized orb, to scan their eyes, which is a unique way of capturing someone's identity, just like a fingerprint or like the vein patterns in your palm. And it's these iris scans that are used to verify our users and issue the cryptocurrency token against that verified identity. Now, I know what you're thinking. This does sound a little dystopian, right? Well, not according to WorldCoin. They say that this approach eliminates the risk of hackers creating fake accounts and taking over a particular thing, whatever it might be, and thereby preventing scams and ensuring a more secure system. But, with any cutting-edge technology, there are valid security concerns. WorldCoin claims to delete the data as soon as they scan the user's iris, which they then, encrypt into some token hashtag identity, which is held in blockchain in a secure way. But any database of identities is susceptible to being hacked. And once it's there, there's always going to be someone that's going to want to try and get inside it. Add on to that, the Ethereum founder, Vitalik Buterin, has already tweeted that every piece of hardware has a vulnerability, a backdoor. That's raised further questions over WorldCoin as to whether someone could actually just hack in at source and read into the back of the orb. Now, to add to Altman's woes, the company has faced criticism for using deceptive marketing practices and collecting more personal data than they acknowledged, potentially violating all sorts of privacy laws, particularly like GDPR in the EU. And WorldCoin is not available in the United States. It's largely being rolled out in emerging geographies. Now, that said, WorldCoin has already raised $250 million in funding from heavy hitters like A16Z, and it's signed up an impressive 2 million users already, and it has ambitions for 2 billion users by the end of 2023. Well, good luck with that one. But as a footnote to this whole story, I want to add my own kind of theory, a conspiracy theory, because to me it's too much of a coincidence that the boss of the most influential artificial intelligence company at the moment, which is Sam Altman as the head of OpenAI, is also doing this project with WorldCoin. And I think it's more than a coincidence, because I think this is the start of a convergence between artificial intelligence and cryptocurrency and Web3. And you think about it like this: as AI becomes ubiquitous, the need for a micropayment mechanism is going to grow stronger. Traditional fiat-based payment systems are just too slow and expensive for small transactions, whereas crypto isn't. Maybe, just maybe, WorldCoin is the key to unlocking a seamless AI-powered future. We're going to have to just wait and see on that one. Now, next up is Twitter/X. As I told you at the start, I couldn't resist it, even though I'm trying to de-Twitterize myself. To me, this is just the craziest stunt yet in the Twitter saga. Elon Musk has rebranded Twitter to X. He's just gone and discarded the only valuable asset that Twitter had left, which was the brand. Everyone in the world knows who Twitter is. Now, here's the thing. Twitter has always punched above its weight in social media brand recognition. It was always mentioned in the same breath as Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, but it was always a significantly smaller player. Then Musk has come along and it's been slowly eroding the fabric that has made Twitter Twitter. He's made the biggest cut of all and just removed the name. So tweets are called X's and Twitter is just called X. But it just doesn't work from a branding point of view. Let's look on X for any X's about whatever is happening in the world. It's just not the same as let's look on Twitter for any tweets. Or I've tweeted about this. People aren't going to say I've X'd it. And the question is, what's the point of all of this. We know that Musk has had this love affair with X.com since the days of PayPal. He tried to rebrand PayPal as X, but was the grown-ups in the room then stopped him from doing that. It's just that with Twitter as it is now, there are no grown-ups in the room. And Musk's promise is for a new future for the rebranded Twitter stroke X as some kind of super app where he quotes WeChat. Now, you've got to know that if WeChat, 95% of the China population, which is about 1.4 billion Chinese people, 1.3 billion use WeChat every month. And this involves payments and e-commerce as well as messaging and everything else you do. And in China, WeChat is the app. The nearest equivalent to look at is that you have a phone and all of your apps are in the phone. Well, imagine you go into one app on a device and all of the apps are within one app. Well, that's what WeChat is. And Musk has talked about making X Twitter, X Twitter, whatever you want to call it, that. And it just isn't going to happen. The environment, the circumstances, the ubiquitous use of WeChat in a Chinese economy that's driven by a cashless agenda from the Chinese Communist Party is entirely different to the global economy that Twitter operates in. And you add to that the fundamental question of trust. In China, people trust WeChat. Would you trust Twitter? Would you trust Elon Musk with your payment and card details? I mean, at the end of the day, this ain't Apple, right? So in my humble opinion, this is just another nail in the coffin for Twitter and will provide a further boost for Threads, which I am now back on. The VPN ban seems to be removed and I'm loving it. There's more features coming out. It's getting more and more like Twitter every day. It's a mega master move by Zuckerberg, whilst the emperor that's got no clothes on, which is Elon Musk, just continues to make one blunder after another. With this thing that he bought for 44 billion, which is probably worth 5 billion, if not less than that now. And remember, my prediction at the start of the year was that Elon Musk would walk away from Twitter with nothing. And I'm still convinced that is how this is all going to end up for the Twitter saga. And now I want to apologize to Anthropic, because in my newsletter a couple of weeks ago, when I first got access to Anthropic, I wrote that I was unimpressed with Claude. I even asked the question, what's the point of Claude? Well, that was my bad, because I've persevered and Anthropic's Claude isn't so bad after all. Now, to be fair, at the time, that was my first impressions. But I've turned 180 degrees in my opinion. In fact, I'm using Claude more now than ChatGPT. Now, that's not because ChatGPT has gotten worse. And by the way, I didn't buy into that Stanford report last week about ChatGPT being measured as worse. I just don't think they got that right. But because Claude actually can do things that ChatGPT can't. And with Llama 2 and with Bard and my favorite of the AI, which is Pi, I can do everything I need to do without going into ChatGPT. So at the moment, I've turned off the GPT Plus service to see whether I can get by with all of the other ones which I'm using for free. But I'm continuing to explore and I'll continue to talk about how we use all of the different AI systems. And I'll probably cover more of that in the next episode. Now, I've been plugging my book, The Beginner's Guide to ChatGPT, and I'm working on the next one, which will be covering some of the other AI systems and how the prompting differs and the way that you use the different AI systems, because they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. But the Beginner's Guide that I've written for ChatGPT is written in an easy to understand and non-technical, as much as I could make it, format. It's intended for anyone who wants to use ChatGPT, but who isn't super technical, but they want to be a super user. And they just want to know the basics to get going. There will be the advanced version of ChatGPT coming out soon. I make the book free to all of my Wiser Plus members who get all the extra exclusive benefits for being through my newsletter club. Or it can be bought online. It's about $4.99, I think. But the links will be in the show notes. But I wanted to give you a taster. So here's a snippet from chapter 4, which I called Maximizing ChatGPT's Potential. And I'm reading, I'll quote now. To maximize the potential of ChatGPT and obtain high quality output, it's essential to employ effective strategies. Consider the following techniques. Number 1, start with a clear and specific prompt. Begin your conversation with a prompt that clearly says your question or desired outcome. The more specific and concise your prompt is, the better chance you have of receiving accurate and relevant responses. Number 2, experiment with different prompt variations. If you're not satisfied with the initial response, don't hesitate to iterate and experiment with different prompt variations. Adjust the wording, provide additional context, or ask the question from a different angle to see if it elicits a more desirable response. And number 3, provide examples and clarifications. If you're seeking a specific type of response, it can be helpful to provide examples or clarifications in your prompt. This helps the model understand the desired format, tone, or content, increasing the likelihood of generating output that meets your expectations. Now, here's the thing. That's the end of the quote, right? That's the end of reading the book. But here's the thing. Most of these principles and approaches outlined in the book about ChatGPT can actually be used on any of the AI systems. There are differences in the way the large language models work. But in the main, what you learn on one, you can apply across them all. And that's what I'm certainly finding because I'm probably using 6 different AI systems at the moment. And I sometimes find that I try the same prompt on multiple platforms to see which one gives me the answer I prefer the most. Now, to round up this week's show, here's some headlines that are also in this week's newsletter. Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon have teamed up on a Maps project to crack the Apple and Google duopoly. Facebook released its latest numbers this week, and they've surpassed 3 billion monthly active users, which is incredible when you think that there's only 8 billion people in the world and Facebook are not in China. But the firm did lose 7.7 billion on the virtual reality business over the last 6 months, even though their revenue has continued to grow and has risen by 11% in the last quarter. I was writing off Facebook a year ago, but it's an unbelievable business model that Zuckerberg has created. Next story is the FTC are investigating OpenAI over data leaks and questions over ChatGPT's inaccuracies. I'm not quite sure why they're doing that. The FTC has a sort of a bit of a mixed record over its investigations. That seems more like a publicity stunt than anything meaningful. I mentioned that in the intro, Microsoft is adding this Maybelline AI-powered beauty filter to Teams. I just don't get this one at all, and it seems to me it's more of a publicity stunt than actually a real feature that anybody's actually going to use. McKinsey, the consulting firm, have partnered with Cohere, who announced their enterprise AI platform called Coral this week. Now, this is interesting because this is McKinsey working directly with building their own version of a large language model using this outfit called Cohere. And I think you're going to see much more of this, where you're going to get very specific sets of versions of large language models that are being tweaked and tailored by whoever's paying the piper to make them work in a particular way. Another story I saw this week was about Russia saying yes to introducing its own central bank digital currency and creating a digital ruble. It's a subject I've covered many times, and one of the videos you might want to look back into a year or so ago was when I spoke with Richard Turin about China's move to a cashless society and how China had rolled out a CBDC 2 years ago now. And then the final story was about Louis Vuitton, who have launched a Speedy Bag NFT. These major brands, these major consumer brands, are still continuing to use NFTs as a way of engaging customers and building brand value through emerging technologies. And I think you're just going to continue to see that, despite everybody writing off NFTs as a kind of a spent force with technologies. It's just being used, and all the major brands are coming up with NFT initiatives. And there's more about that in my Emerging Technologies Index, which my newsletter Wiser Plus members get full access to. Anyway, that's all for this week. I'll be doing another show this time next week. Thanks for being here with me, and remember to hit the like button, leave me a comment, let me know what you think about it. Check all the show notes for all of today's links. Subscribe to my newsletter if you want to be first to find out what I'm talking about each week. Until next week, and remember, insight and information gives you leverage. Have a nice day.